Hello and welcome to The Black Complementary Therapist. I'm your host Pauline of Pendulum Massage of London, and today's show's all about weathering and inflammation, a strange one, and it follows on from what we had last time, which was why we need complementary therapists who are black now more than ever. I think it's a good one, and it's an excellent one to follow on from because there needs to be a rationale for why black complementary therapists are important, and not just because of the cultural reasons, actually health specific reasons as well. So yeah, that's what today's show's going to be all about. Before we move on, I'd like to take a bit of time first to breathe, because sometimes you got to give to receive. Find yourself settled in your seat. And before we begin breathing, let's project outwards where we'd like to send peace, where we'd love to send kindness, where we'd like to send equilibrium that we can send out. Visualize that energy radiating from you, that goodness that you're sending out there. And now just let that sense of radiating outward peter out, so that you're just maintaining what you need for yourself. And there we have it. If the world's not a little bit better for a little bit of love being sent out, what point is there? Today, I was just thinking about how the week's been. The week has been busy, creative, expansive, thoughtful, full of community. It's been all those things. So last week, Monday, I did a mobile job. Lovely couple, tired, not quite burnt out, but definitely tired and in need of massage. And really nice, a day out to do that. Then I dashed back and did one job, and then I ended the week on Saturday with a job at the trampery. I did some chair massage work for the Camille Rose pop-up that was there on Saturday. It was a really lovely day. Lovely to spend a day pampering loads of black women who had come to see what Camille Rose had going on with the hair products. They had dancing, they had speakers, they had influencers having brunch in the morning. Everybody who came to the event got a spot of lunch and time to chill out and chat and just enjoy the day. So it was really nice. I was kept busy. Lots of lovely people, and it's just nice to get out there and do something a little bit more community focused. Although what I do in my room is definitely community focused. It's me on the Todd, treating one person at a time. So it's just nice to be amongst the hubbub of life out there. So today, it's a call to arms really, because last time we spoke I was talking about therapists, why we need black complementary therapists now more than ever. And today is going to be the damn reason why. That's why. So hold tight and we'll get on with it. So I found a definition of chronic inflammation, and it says that chronic inflammation is a prolonged low-grade immune response that carries on for ages and ages. Chronic inflammation is different from regular inflammation. So, okay, you go on holiday, mosquito love you, mosquito bite you. What do? You get a bump. You get a bump on your skin, and that bump is inflammation. But why? Why is that bump there? It's because when you get bitten, there is bacteria and whatnot there. There may be toxins there your body has to deal with. So your body responds, usually with some histamine, and the histamine causes redness around that area. The body temperature rises in that area and inflammation occurs. And that inflammation is the beginning of the healing process. It is natural. There are lots of other times that we get inflammation. We may have it when we have a cold. There's a certain type of inflammation that occurs around the nose. That area becomes congested because it's fighting an infection. And that infection, when it's fought, inflammation occurs, and that is part of the healing process, the part of the fight towards the healing process. It happens often. The other day I cut my finger. I decided I was going to put some herbal medicine on it, and that sped up the process of inflammation, but also it meant that it healed quicker. There are many ways that we and our forebears used complementary therapies and herbal and traditional techniques to speed up the inflammation process. The process of heating one's body up is in fact a way of speeding up that process. And many techniques do that. So say, for example, even massage. There is a type of damage that is done with massage, which is really good, because what it does is it uniformly creates inflammation, which then heals and means that muscles go through the healing process faster than without. And that form of destruction is positive. Many forms of healthcare are destructive, but in process become positive. So what's chronic inflammation? Well, it's different from acute. Acute inflammation is that one incident, and then from there is healing. Chronic inflammation is a prolonged low-grade systematic immune response that carries on for months and months and possibly even years. Unlike the acute, which is short-term, for example, for injury or infection, chronic inflammation is often silent and can occur without obvious symptoms. The bad thing about chronic inflammation is that over time, damaged tissues and organs age prematurely, and it can contribute to certain conditions which far surpass the chronic inflammation that it would have begun. So say, for example, there might be cardiovascular disease or diabetes, autoimmune conditions like lupus, or even depression and cancer are resultant forms of chronic inflammation. So the thing about chronic inflammation, it's got this longevity to it, is that it comes from and it is influenced by lifestyle, stress, diet, trauma, environmental toxins, and chronic inflammation also can express differently depending on your gender, what hormones you have in your system, your life stage, your genetics, and your stressors. So think about it. What chronic inflammation is, it's your body playing out the cards you have drawn. Carry on with the card analogy then, and we're going to look at different profiles. So we got Linda, postmenopausal woman in her 60s. She's a caregiver, low income, sedentary lifestyle, poor sleeper. So she doesn't get a lot of sleep. Not uncommon in your 60s in postmenopause. So her symptoms are she's got joint stiffness, especially in the morning, brain fog and fatigue, belly weight gain despite eating small meals, dry skin, thinning hair. Some people be thinking, crikey, she's talking about me. Poor wound healing. The contributors to this are logically the estrogen drop, a life of stress, being a caregiver, and that goes in with the definition of weathering, that stress can come from weathering, and weathering is a resultant of life's factors of stress, the cards that one has been drawn, eating processed foods, lack of strength and mobility training, and possible undiagnosed autoimmune condition. So bearing that in mind, this is just one profile. Profile number 2, Chantel, woman in her 40s, high stress job. She's an executive, she's an overachiever. I don't know what that means, an overachiever. I would say she's fulfilling her full potential, and she's a single parent. She has IBS gut symptoms. Around her period, she gets migraine. She has restless sleep and anxiety. She often feels bloated and has a puffy face. And the contributing factors are chronic cortisol elevation. That's a life of stress. Cortisol elevation is all about the fight, flight, freeze response. Often when you work and you work really hard and you're in an environment where you can't say no because you're achieving, then you're in that position where you're thinking, right, got to get that job done. Right, got to get the next job done. Poor work-life boundaries, caffeine or alcohol overuse, premenstrual immune flare-ups, and a leaky gut microbiome imbalance. So we know that stress and a diet low in nutrient-rich foods and natural fruits and vegetables can cause immune system flare-ups and microbiome imbalance. So that's really logical there. I'm starting to think about possible lifestyle changes that Chantel could be undertaking. Tasha, a young girl in her 20s, urban lifestyle, works in retail, lives in the city, so polluted areas, smokes occasionally. So what has Tasha got? She's got acne and hormonal fluctuations, slow healing from colds, mild depression and fatigue, brain fog during her cycle. Contributors to this are high exposure to environmental toxins, nutrient poor diet, early signs of PCOS. And PCOS is where the ovaries release an egg, but the egg ain't ready, so it kind of erupts, releases loads of hormones and settles down again. Erupts. It leaves loads of hormones, settles down again. So the body's getting ready for menstruation, but it doesn't quite occur because other things are going on. With these fluctuations, loads of other symptoms occur, which aren't so great. Early signs of PCOS and disrupted circadian rhythm. So the urban lifestyle probably involves using computers late in the evening or mobile phone. And what that can do is upset the circadian rhythms as well. So not so great. Okay, going into the men's profiles. Kevin, 50s, office worker. Sits all day, low fitness, chronic back pain issues. So he's got fatty liver markers. That means there is fat around his viscera, which isn't so great. It's an early indicator of metabolic illnesses like diabetes and such like. So chronic lower back pain, stiffness, and if he puts his back out, obviously the fatty liver markers will go up because he'll be more sedentary. He's got erectile dysfunction, read about that in The Guardian later, poor motivation and high blood pressure. So contributors of visceral fat, insulin resistance, poor circulation, excessive refined carbohydrates, testosterone decline and underlying metabolic syndrome. Okay, so let's have a look at somebody who is a little bit contrary. Dwayne, in his 30s, is gym obsessed, works out daily, high protein diet and supplements. Joint pain, not explained by activity, gut bloating and food intolerance, elevated inflammatory markers despite fitness, and trouble sleeping. The contributors, funny enough, is overtraining. If you're overtraining and your body has not got the resources to heal after the overtraining, what you get is inflammation. After heavy training, the body needs good nutrition, rest, and enough calories to deal with the inflammation that occurs naturally due to exercise. But without that, what you do is you overtax the body. So elevated inflammatory markers would be there. Supplement overload. Sometimes supplements aren't so great for you. It depends. Because if you're taking supplements and you don't need them, they're in excess and your body's got to process them and get rid of them. If your body needs them, it will use them. So in effect, the supplements may be a waste. Gut lining irritation from high protein diet. So high protein is all about, repair, growth and repair in the body. But if you've got excess of it, it gets turned into storage of fats, and that's not so great. And effectively what you're doing is you're overeating. So if you have loads of protein, you're overeating, it gets turned into fat anyway. And finally, adrenal strain. So when you're working out and working really hard, your heart's working harder. That is a stress on the system, on the cardiac system, on the body as a whole. So when we look at these case studies, they are all different, but they are all in some way showing inflammatory disease at work. So what can we say all these profiles have in common? All the risk factors of these individuals show that there are underlying chronic inflammation drivers. They've got stress and poor sleep, processed or sugary foods, or pro-inflammatory diets. They have a sedentary lifestyle, with the one exception of the overtrains. Environmental pollutants or toxic overload is in their environment. So they're urban dwellers, then traffic, noise, pollutants in the atmosphere, that would be an underlying chronic inflammation cause. Hormonal imbalances like the PCOS or the testosterone disruption, social isolation or trauma, gut microbiome dysfunction. So, in effect, all of those things work towards creating systemic chronic inflammation. To be sure, I don't want to overstep my remit as a massage therapist, and it is often the case that complex situations require complex solutions. And working in complementary therapies, it's incumbent on us as practitioners to make sure we don't overstep our remit. And that's where the team approach comes in. So it is often the case that somebody who's overtraining may seek further advice on how to modify their training to work within their body's capacity. It may be that an individual who is eating certain types of food that are causing their inflammation, their chronic inflammation, or contributing to their chronic inflammation, would consider learning about changing their diet, tweaking their diet to support their system better. So, in conclusion, I've been thinking about how inflammation affects so many of our lives, and also how modern theory fits into that. So I read the book by Dr. Arline Geronimus called Weathering, and it's a book about how marginalised communities, those who have to work in prejudice and injustice in their daily lives, how these people, meaning our people, are affected by the structural racism of living in a diaspora. And this structural racism creates stress in everyday life, which we live through and work through. And there's a saying that if you're from an immigrant family, you have to work twice as hard to get the same reward. Well, that twice as hard working is actually costing our health and well-being, and the proof of weathering easily demonstrated by the COVID figures and how ethnic minorities and the poor fared during that time of COVID, with the mortality rates, also in the rates of childbirth, also in the rates on mental health, and also in the rates of heart disease, cancer, and other illnesses like diabetes, etc., etc. So the figures bear out. There's research done. There are government papers panicking, having a moral panic about different areas of health in the UK and in other countries. So yeah, it's time to take some control of what we can do by drawing upon community and drawing upon the wisdom that we have to help each other. So, a call to arms for complementary therapists. This is a time we should be getting out there and doing our work and really helping our communities to have the best lives possible. Let's be prepared so that when someone makes the call, we can answer. Okay, right, I'm done for today. It was a big one, and I hope that I've done the subject justice, and I look forward to any comments that you'd like to share. I am out in the community doing my thing. I'm Pendulum Massage. I do massage in E14 in London. Got a website, you can have a look. And this year, exciting projects are going. So take care out there, and I'll catch you in 14 or so days with the next episode. Bye.